Hello, everyone, and welcome to our 29th office hours. This is where us, the team at Stately, talk to you about all things Stately, all things XState. We talk about your feedback. You can ask us questions if you want. If you're watching us on YouTube, you can ask us in the comments. If you are watching us on Twitter, you can just tweet us. If you are on our Discord, which you can join at discord.gg/xstate. We have a dedicated office hours channel in there. If you want to ask any questions throughout, I'll be keeping my eye out and I will answer your questions if I can. First up, team intros, because we do this every week in case you haven't met us before, and sometimes people decide to give themselves exciting job descriptions. Very ordinarily, I am Laura Kalbag and I do developer and designer relations for Stately. David.
Hey, I'm David Khorshid. I'm the founder of Stately, the creator of XState, and hopefully the accruer of some additional people to our team.
We'll hold on that for 1 second.
Yeah, all right.
Matt.
I am Matt. I don't know how to unmute myself fast enough. I'm also a developer for Stately, and again, can't think of anything funny to say.
Gavin, how about you? It's early over there, so we don't expect you to say anything intelligible.
Oh, that's okay. Yeah, that's easy for me. My name's Gavin Bowman, developer at Stately, and I'm the lead crier over TypeScript right now.
Oh no.
We switch roles, like
yeah.
We rotate on that.
Yep, it's a hat we all wear.
Yep.
And Farzad.
Hey, I'm Farzad. I do engineering stuff at Stately, and as Steve puts it, I'm the most interesting man on the planet.
It's true.
It's a good title.
Yeah, but it's not what he means.
So, David, you dropped a hint earlier about us maybe hiring.
Yeah, so we're going to be putting out job descriptions soon, but we have a backlog of about infinity years of things to do. And these are like really, really exciting things. And Matt's going to show off some of those things that we're working on today. But yeah, we are hiring for a UX designer and a front end, or actually, just a software engineer in general. But yeah, we have exciting projects that we're working on. It's using XState, React, Next.js, all sorts of goodies. Prisma, Nexus on the back end, GraphQL, like all of these. I don't want to call them buzzwordy technologies because they're really good technologies. So if you are interested, before we actually put out official job descriptions, we're giving you the first opportunity to please just reach out to me or the team at team@stately.ai and let us know if you're interested. We're all completely remote, so that's why we all have different backgrounds here.
We're hiring from anywhere in the world, right? We're hiring from, within reason. Like Antarctica is probably going to cause some issues, but like, this is the first time that we've asked for this. It's the first time we're sort of opening our doors, so it feels like a pretty momentous occasion. Growing the team, growing all the possibilities. It's really exciting.
Yeah.
And we can vouch. I mean, if you've been watching our office hours, this is a friendly bunch of people. It's a lovely group and everyone is very welcoming. We have lots of opportunities for using the skills that we have, for learning a lot from each other. I think that's a really great thing that we have within our team and doing some really cool work.
Yeah. Matiush in the chat says, can I apply? Unfortunately, we require 10 years of XState experience, Matiush.
At least.
XState's been around for 5 years, so that's going to be pretty impossible. Sorry.
He could apply twice, actually, so he could work for us in the night as well as the day. That would be cool.
Oh, yes.
I've always suspected that Matiush is like a team of 5 developers just working together.
Yeah, exactly. He doesn't even know.
Explains why I've only ever seen him on video calls in a trench coat, because he's actually like 7 people. That makes sense.
So let's show everyone what we have been working on. Matt, we've got some tasty demos lined up for today. Oh, Matt, you're muted, I think.
No. Okay. We have some. I was so on the money there as well. I was talking a great spiel. Yeah, we've got some really big sort of heavily requested stuff from the community that we've been working on. We've actually got a bunch of stuff we can't even show you today that's like nearly ready. But we've got 3 things that I wanted to talk about today, which are pretty exciting. The number one thing that we've been requested is kind of an annoying thing that we ship with that we always intended to fix, which was when you make like inline implementations inside the VS Code extension, which is where I am right now. I'm inside a file in VS Code. And if I add like, when I go into this machine, for instance, on entry, I want to console log that I'm in the, my machine has begun, right? Previously, this wouldn't work because our parser wasn't smart enough to sort of like figure out this inline action here. But now we've made some changes. So when I open the visual editor now, if I just zoom out a wee bit again, now what you should see is, for instance, that didn't work. But if I go entry like this, then you should see that the entry action is picked up inline here. So we have an inline action. Now, when I add states to it, we can see we have like an A state, which links to like a B state, let's say. And here, I can just go in here and say entry console log in the B state. And I can just start editing my machine like this. So I get to combine all of the cool stuff that you get with kind of inline actions, which is, you know, pretty decent TypeScript experience. It's very quick to put together, and you can still build them out with the visual editor. So this works for entry actions. It works for invocations. So I can say invoke source, and I can, I don't know, make a promise inside here. So return ID true, for instance. And again, everything just shows up as inline here. And I can even, of course, combine these with all the cool tools that we have already. So adding invocations yourself, for instance. So like root invoke, source, and then that gets added. So it's pretty exciting. We're very pleased to have shipped this because this is probably our #1 requested feature. And it means that this will work out of the box with all of your machines as they are right now. So we've got that. The next thing that we've been working on is a kind of better editor experience, either for the VS Code extension or for when you're editing this on the web. What we really wanted to do is kind of show errors here, like when you make a mistake, for instance. So when you leave a state key empty, then you'll now get a lovely error saying state key cannot be empty. This is a very small kind of, or relatively small feature, but it does just add a lot of clarity to what's going on. For instance, an issue that lots of people were running into was when you have 2 states named the same thing. Now you'll get a nice kind of error message saying that this basically isn't possible. And as you can see, the sort of output gets a bit mangled here, and it just allows you to sort everything out as you see it. I think, Farzad, this was your big feature, right? Like, am I missing any cool stuff here? Like, are there any other errors I should be demoing?
Yeah, so there are errors and there are warnings right now. We actually have only 1 warning right now, and that's where we have duplicate guards. But besides that, we're going to add to that list pretty soon.
Exactly.
We have a lot of validations also under the hood, such as, you know, duplicated state keys, duplicate events, duplicate guards, empty ones. And we have a bunch of, we're following the validation rules that XState core enforces on your machines, such as you can't have like, I don't know, like dots or stars or things that have a meaning in the name of your states and events. So we kind of catch them and we tell you, but keep in mind that this is still an exportable machine and you can visualize it however you want, though broken. That's why we're actually warning about this when you're exporting them in the export model as well.
Exactly. That's a really great description. Like we're basically trying to do everything we can to help you make machines better inline. And this kind of might build into the future with, let's say, hints and tips, for instance. So expect this UI to continue to grow and the amount of errors and warnings to continue to grow. The final thing is we've been working on improving the outputs when you export your machine or when you sort of build your machine in VS Code. And you can see, for instance, that previously, if I look at previous machines, if you've used the editor before, if I just delete a bunch of this stuff, what you should notice is if I add a couple of states here, previously, the only way a target would be printed would be as a full ID of the machine. So it would be something like machine.newstate2. And now it actually chooses kind of the most idiomatic, the smartest way to print the target, and it just cleans up the output a lot. This is something that isn't quite in production yet, but I've just had a PR that's pretty much been approved about it. And this is part of our sort of journey towards like making this like a full IDE experience where it touches your code as little as possible and chooses the kind of smartest defaults for you. So that's where our focus is right now, is improving the VS Code editor experience when it's being output from the editor itself. So yeah, that's kind of the end of the demo. That's pretty exciting times. And as I say, we've got like 5 things that we can't quite show you yet that are just around the corner.
John says those state validation warnings are great, but what about developer validation? Green tick that says nice transition. I think we should have reassuring messages.
I think so too.
+1. We really do need that developer dopamine kick when building out these state machines.
Plus, not even just for developers, but for designers as well, or people who are new to state machines, like just, I don't know, gamifying the experience. Although I hate to use that term, but yeah.
I love that.
Or we could just probably kick in some AI in there as a cherry on top, and then maybe just, show you're doing a great job modeling, or this is a better way of modeling, for example. So the editor is not just for modeling or practical applications. It's basically for learning later on too.
Yes. And that's also one of our bigger plans, is that, if we have a registry of public machines and we could say, hey, like that little paperclip, the Clippy that jumps up and says, hey, I see you're trying to model a login flow. Here's some example machines for that. Like, we have the power to do that, and to, just statically analyze your machine and compare it and say, hey, there might be a better way to model this. Whereas you can't really do that with code, at least not yet. So, yeah.
Erik says, and Matt, I don't know if you want to bring your screen back up for this, but is that red pixel supposed to be there in the middle? Everyone can see that, right?
I know.
It's just a dead pixel.
It's a dev-only pixel. It's our favorite pixel. It's like our pet pixel. It just sort of sits in the middle and it tells us where 0, 0 is, basically. That's what that pixel's doing. So,
yeah. Funny enough, there's a red pixel and there's a white pixel in development mode only. So the white pixel tells us where absolute 0, 0 is, and then this one tells us where the center of the viewport is. There you
go.
So,
and if you get hired by us, we'll ask you to take the red pixel. That's how it works.
Actually, that's one of the perks of working in the Stately. You get to see those dots.
Yeah.
There you go.
That explains the dark sunglasses.
Also, this week, if you happen to have gone to stately.ai this morning European time, I guess, you might have noticed our new landing page. David, would you show that off? Because you've done some really cool work for this.
Sure thing. Let me just grab my screen. All right, so here we go. This is the new landing page, and I'm going to go ahead and make this a little bit wider. So this just gives you an outline of, everything that we're working on, or at least some of the things that we're working on. And this has been an effort mostly led by Laura. And so we're very excited to actually have, I wish I could pull up the old Stately AI page, but it was something I created in less than half an hour. So it was very bare bones compared to this. But yeah, so this is our landing page talking about what we're working on. Has a lot of cool images and a lot of testimonials too. We were really excited to get these. And of course, a place for you to subscribe for updates over here. But one of the things that I worked on, or one of the small things, this is actually something that I grabbed over from our work on the editor, and it's these arrows over here, because if you resize the page, you'll notice that the arrows are actually adaptive to each of the element sizes. And so there's a lot of interesting coding going on there. It's definitely non-trivial, like there was a lot to it, but if you look inside the source, you'll see maybe just as an Easter egg or something, but we use a lot of data attributes in order to make that work. So we would say the source is the editor and the target is used in production. So we're saying that this arrow goes from here to there. And we could also say the source position is 0.85, which means 85% of the way to the right, and the target position is 0.5, so exactly halfway over there. And then a little bit of JavaScript is used to basically figure out, okay, what is the best arrow? And this is SVG, by the way. What is the best arrow I could draw from this element to that element? So these are not hard-coded SVG or whatever arrows. These are actually dynamic, and yeah.
Which is so useful, because when we first got the initial designs for this page, we had a look at the arrows and I thought, yeah, I could probably work out a way of doing that, but making it responsive, making it so that you can add more text or take away text, or allow for the translation of text, like it becomes a whole
Very cool
nightmare. So to have this fantastic little arrows library that David made for us made that development much easier.
Mm-hmm.
Big shout out to Laura too for this is pretty much Laura's project. This is like like all the copy, all of the design, like not the design, but all of the implementation is basically all Laura. So huge shout out to you, because it looks amazing.
Yeah, like 100 times better than
hopefully if you're working on a team and you want them to understand what we're working on, and you want to give them a basic introduction to Stately and to XState, hopefully this page will help make that a lot easier. That is really the intention of it, is to make it so you actually do have an understanding of what we're trying to do.
By the way, we had like 20 or 30 different logos here of companies that use XState in production, so we had to cut those down. So there's a lot more companies actually over here, including Centered. Hey, Erik in the chat.
Yeah, Centered made it in there.
Mm-hmm.
Carla says we're showing off. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And we haven't got Matthews is here, but he is present in the comments today. And so, David, would you like to explain what he's been working on recently?
Yeah, sure. So Mateusz is working heavily on the open source parts, both XState version 4 and the upcoming XState version 5. So we just did a monster merge, I think, a week or two ago, where we merged version 4 to version 5. But there's also a lot of good work coming out of version 4. One of the changes that I'm most excited about, and this is actually a demo from someone in our community. Sorry, I don't have the name exactly over here. Actually, I do want to give proper credit. So, oh yeah, Simeon C on our community actually made this Wordle XState demo, which, by the way, I also made a Wordle XState demo. It doesn't look nearly as good as this, but if you look at the previous Learn with Jason episode, you could see how we made it over there. A lot of fun words over here. But something that you'll notice is that in Codepen, you can now import XState directly from cdn.skypack.dev/XState. This was not possible before. And you could also get the inspector from there too. I hit it just because the layout's a little bit weird, but if I reload it, you'll see that it is actually working. Oh, I took it out, so that's why. But anyway, yeah, so the inspector will work in there, XState will work in there, and so you could now use XState pretty much wherever, because you could import it from this URL, which is pretty awesome. And this works.
It is really cool, especially if you like to use Codepen for sharing work with your team and for knocking out really quick examples. So useful.
Yes.
This week, we also asked everyone what's on your XState docs wish list, and we did this because we've been working on the docs for a long time, but we're really starting to get down deep into it and work out what our priorities need to be. And so having your feedback on this has been really helpful. And if you have any more feedback on what you want from the docs, what you've been looking for, what you expect to find but haven't, all of these things, we'd really love to know about it. And if you can let us know either on our Discord, I will show you the URL for that again. That's discord.gg/xstate. Or you can tweet us, or you can leave us a message in the comments. Any way of getting your feedback to us, we really, really appreciate it. And I've tried to group this feedback somewhat so that it's easier for us to work out what we're aiming for. So first of all, we're looking at best practices. I think that's something we really need in the docs. Hugh DeCL says, wish this on XState docs, but in more depth. That would really help anyone beginning on XState. And this is Matt's really great blog post on Modeling 101, which we have a URL for there. And that is a really great intro to using state machines and how to plan them out. And so I think that, yeah, we will be having things like this in the docs for sure. More best practices. Jesco or Hesco says, opinionated guides and real world examples of strategies and pitfalls when designing state machines. So we've got a lot we can really cover in the docs. It's sort of from very, very broad concepts and things like that to much more specific examples too. A roadmap. So Hein says, maybe not a doxing just yet, sorry to be that guy, but a solid look at where you guys are going with actors in V5 and the new patterns it might allow would really help with planning. And I included this because this is great feedback, and I think this is something that we do need to have. And we've been discussing roadmaps and sharing more of our internal roadmaps with you and having better internal roadmaps too. So this is definitely something that is on the list to happen very soon. A reference, I think we already do have an API reference, but I think something that is got more detail maybe. Bart says, I would like an API reference. Right now, a lot of functions and methods are explained in the text, but there's no overview of all of them with explanations. Erik, hi Erik in the comments. So Erik is looking for migration, and he said, I have about 40 machines implemented with Create Model. A migration path would be nice. I've tried to just move the event definitions into schema, but it isn't going well. It might be because I'm back in the oldie v4.25.0. So I think helping everyone get from what older versions to XState to more current versions is definitely a great thing we could have in the docs.
Mm-hmm. You could continue to use Create Model, by the way. That's not gonna break anything, hopefully. So I also think that was mentioned in the tweets. So yeah, it's not officially deprecated yet, if that makes sense. The Create Model. So you're still free to use it. You still it's maybe not our top recommended way to do it, but we'll let you know when we're deprecating it. We'll provide a proper migration path, maybe even a code mod, all that fun stuff. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it's something I think that is very important, particularly to Mateusz, is that we're not going to just be getting rid of things all over the place. We're going to make sure that we don't break anything if we can as we go forward.
Right, as Erik mentioned, the fewer surprises with version 5, the better. So the version 5 branch is under development and is publicly available if you dig into our branches and in progress PRs over in the XState repo. And you're going to see that much of it is still the same. There's really not that many. So most of the breaking changes are actually for internal implementations and the way that we do spawning in actors and things like prioritizing action order. And all this should be on the blog post. So I'm just going on the original recommendation of one of the commenters here.
So TypeScript, better TypeScript documentation. So Jason said that TypeScript was the biggest pain with V4, and there's a learning curve there as well. I think, as Gavin acknowledged today. So I think we will have better documentation with regards to TypeScript. Examples. This is always the biggest request we get, and we've got some really great plans for how the examples are going to work. So Saad says more model-based testing examples. Testing is something we've also got to do a little more work on. Ross said, for me, it's being able to toggle all code examples between JS and TS, JavaScript and TypeScript, plus interactive type information from Shiki2Sash. You can see that in action here. Does anyone here know what Shiki2Sash is? Could explain it to me?
Yes. Oh, it's so cool. It's basically, if you have code examples in your docs and they're like JavaScript or TypeScript based, especially TypeScript based, you can actually hover over parts of the code example and it will give you similar type information to what you get in your IDE. It's incredibly cool, incredibly powerful. And it makes TypeScript docs interactive and super swish. Shiki2Slash also has probably the most beautiful documentation page I've ever seen. It's in sort of like medieval font characters and stuff. Super gorgeous.
It's pretty good, yeah. I want to mention
yeah.
that we discussed this, like switching between JS and TS definitions for the doc like a few times, and we kind of all agree that this is a good feature to have in the docs. About the Shiki2/, we actually are considering that for the blog too. So might find its way to both of them.
Mm-hmm.
Very cool. Well, it's glad that I know what it is now. Continuing on the examples. This is me creating clicking issues. There we go. Ross, again, similarly on the node side of things, how to wrap processes spawned by child process. So there's a lot of requests for quite specific examples as well. But I think these are all fairly common use cases that we should definitely be able to address.
Funny enough, this is something that I recently posted something on Twitter about, like an idea for XState node, so that you could get to, so child processes are used heavily when you're working with Node.js, and spawning an actor for that naturally from XState node would be just top notch. And me, David, and Matt talked about it already, and I have some ideas. Maybe we can do a spike on that.
Very cool. Ross, again, some illustrative examples for interfacing with some of the web APIs that communicate information from a concurrent background process via events, things like MediaStream and WebSocket. I can definitely see the use in that for sure.
Yeah, I can pitch in again. This is also something that we've been listening for XState DOM package. That's something in the scope of my job this year. That's safely.
Yeah, there's like so many of these examples. Like that's something that we that I tried to address sort of in XState catalog, which was released about a year ago now, I think. And it's basically example-based learning, especially for things like modeling and things like sort of just working out what a library can do is so important. And it's something that we know that we need to do better in the current docs. And we're really pushing towards now revamping the docs. We've had a couple of meetings about sort of seriously going in deep and rewriting a lot of it. And what I think we're finding is that examples probably are going to be the thing we're going to focus on most and have basically a kind of like example-led documentation. We've got some crazy ideas about how that might work. And I think it's going to be quite a radical way of doing documentation. But yeah, there's definitely some things we're thinking about.
Yeah, we don't want to make too many promises yet. But yes, it is very radical and very cool. And on our Discord, WCodeback64 said, I'd love to see more content, examples, real-world use cases, etc., around machine composition, spawning actors, particularly in React, but general would be good too. And yeah, we want to have more examples around the different frameworks that you use as well, in order to make these as useful as possible. And I think this is finally, Amy said, a way to export a state machine for visualize, this kind of feature request-ish, for visualization without having to fix all the broken references in the code past the visualizer. And more TypeScript examples.
This is something that people have long been requesting, and this is sort of how the simulation mode works in the visual editor right now. We ignore all the implementations and just care about the path that you can walk. And we have plans to deprecate the visualizer in favor of the new editor later on this year. So this will come out of the box.
I would call it absorbing the visualizer into the editor. There's a lot of things that we learned from the visualizer, and also a lot of things that we carried over from the visualizer that we can use in the editor, and have it be one of the modes, speaking of finite states, one of the modes of the editor. So yeah, that's planned.
Yeah, I think simulation mode with execution.
Jay asks, how far is V5 from V4? Are there any V5 specific docs/examples?
Yeah, so Mateusz and I have been talking about this. We do have a short list of, internally, of course, a short list of like must-have things for XState V5 Alpha. And so we're just gradually working our way through that short list. And then, of course, adding features along the way. But yeah, hopefully, within, I don't want to make any promises, but it's something that we're diligently working on. A lot of V4 examples, in fact, I would say most of them, especially the ones that don't involve spawning or invoking actors, are going to work the exact same way in version 5. So there's nothing you need to worry about there. Again, a lot of the changes are going to be around spawning and invoking actors with the purpose of making it more type safe and making it also simpler and more flexible. So yeah, just look out for that in the coming months.
Definitely, we're pretty committed to a release for V5 like this year, basically. Like we don't want to put like a specific date on it, but we can say that Anderist is now full-time on open source, which we haven't been able to do before. And when Anderist is full-time on something, it's going to get done, So
Absolutely.
Sebastian says, just tried the visual editor for the first time and noticed that my machine states that are defined using constants, states.mystate, etc., are not supported. Is there a plan to support this?
Give or take, it depends on where your constants are defined. I'd say let's raise an issue. We'll have a look at it, and yeah, we can see what's going on. Mostly, we like to use as static a configuration as possible. Basically, using XState as a sort of like as a static JSON, let's say. Although that's changing a little bit now with the inline implementations. But yeah, raise an issue. We'll check it out.
Martin said, I've yet to go through the new landing page, but I always had hoped that the different resources, API, packages, editor, viz, catalog, VS Code plugin were grouped together. Now, some of that you will find on the landing page, but my aim is that we have a good documentation homepage where you'll be able to get to all of these things really quickly and easily, and we'll provide better links to a lot of it from the landing page as well. It's a good call there. John asks, this is actually for you, Matt. Did anything come from your exploration of improving documentation search?
I'm not sure what he's referring to there. I think he might be referring to, I did a live stream where I worked on a command palette.
That's it.
Yeah, which was basically sort of seeing how XState could be used for that sort of thing. But I haven't looked into documentation search super hard at this point. Mostly what I've been doing, for instance, in the XState catalog is just using plain old JavaScript, so nothing fancy like Algolia or anything like that. But yeah, we're definitely going to be looking into that soon with some new docs thinking happening.
Yeah, I can actually see some of the things we've talked about for the new docs potentially being very useful for search. And I have to say, I mean, no offense to anyone who works on it, but I find Algolia search a nightmare. I really struggle with just getting a few results in a tiny little box. That's not my bag.
Shots fired.
Yeah. So we'll have to improve on that. So we have quite a few other things that we wanted to make sure we mentioned this week. The first of which is there will be no office hours next week. We'll be back the week after. That is just because there's one too many of us away, and you want to have a full complement for an office hours. And Matt, would you like to tell us what you're up to, I guess, instead of office hours next week?
Exactly. I'm stepping into the void, providing some content where content is needed. And I will be doing a live stream with Jamin Holmgren on the Infinite Red YouTube channel, which you can Google, which is going to be kind of focused on React Native and XState together, demoing some of the stuff that we got to do with Visualizer. It's going to be fun. Jamin's a cool guy, and his name is harder to pronounce than it should be. But yeah, I think it's going to be fun. It's going to be pretty relaxed. It's going to be at 5 p.m. GMT, which at Eastern time
is 1 p.m. Eastern time. I checked.
1 p.m. Eastern time.
Even with daylight savings time?
That is with daylight savings time. I checked the exact date.
That's going to confuse me for a while, about 6 months.
Yeah. And we're shifted. The Europeans and the US were shifted off for a couple of weeks, so that's going to be nice and confusing for us.
Absolutely screwing with us.
Now, we also have an announcement to make that if you would like to join quite a few of the team at Reactathon, you can actually get 30% off a Reactathon ticket with the code STATELY30. So that is well worth using. And you can also go attend David's workshop at Reactathon as well, can't you, David?
Yes, so me and Eric in the chat, we're going to be giving a joint workshop on making multi-step forms with XState. We're basically going to be recreating a Calendly clone, which is actually pretty difficult to do without a state machine. So we're going to be showing all the advantages of using XState. And of course, Eric is an expert on forms. So we're going to be combining those two concepts together and making a real-life app using both of those technologies. Also, we are going to be having a booth for the first time, a booth over at Reactathon. It's going to be a completely outdoor conference, for COVID and safety reasons. Plus, that time of year, it's just beautiful in the Bay Area. So I really encourage you to all come out if you're, in the United States, or even if you want to travel from abroad and visit San Francisco. It's actually technically in Oakland, I believe. But yeah, we will be having a lot of really cool exclusive XState and stately swag to give you too. So some of us will be handing that out. So please join.
So that'll be very cool to get to.
I'm sorry, just to explain that why I was laughing. It was funny because David was, for a long time complaining about that view page on Calendly, and he finally gets to refactor that in XState.
Yes.
Brilliant. It's a great way of creating examples, is trying to make something that frustrates you. Charles asks, are there options to see the states by which we entered, even eventless states, with always or after? I'm trying to wait.
I don't know quite what he's referring to there. Does he mean like in... say again, sorry?
Yeah, I think, Charles, have you... drop by our Discord or tweet us, and maybe you can share an example with us, and we'll be able to give you a better response there.
Could he be referring to the micro steps in V5?
Possibly. And yeah, that's something that we do need to improve, or actually we already improved in V5, is the fact that if you're at a state and then you have like transient states where it just immediately goes from state to state to state and then finally rests at a state, there's right now there's no way of knowing like what all the in-between states were, but in V5 that's going to change.
Masha says, I think it's a question about source paths that can lead to a particular state.
Yeah.
Okay. We've got some tools internally that can that are at the XState tools repo that you can dive into. We've got this whole sort of introspect machine function that dives through all the different paths. This is for TypeGen, actually. Nice. Thanks for the banner. And yeah, if you go on Discord, we can investigate it, and we can help you work out what you need, basically. But yeah, all those introspection tools, we've been kind of building our own. They're not necessarily built into the library, but they're there in open source if you want to have a look at them.
Now, did anyone on the team have anything else that they wanted to share this week?
Yeah, so I just wanted to remind everyone again that we are hiring, either for a UX designer or a software engineer, we're going to call it, to work on our awesome tools that we have. And a lot of this is, some of it's greenfield and some of it's just exciting technologies that we've been working with. So if you're interested, someone mentioned like not having enough brain power. Please don't think that. We are very multi-talented team, and everyone is intelligent in their own way. So just apply.
Everyone brings their own experiences to the team, and it is not about how much you know, it's about how you use the knowledge that you have.
Absolutely. Like we work on a lot of different stuff. So if you're into open source and into kind of the more complicated stuff, then we've got that. But we've also got a lot of front-end interfaces to build. And so if you've got experience doing that, we need you, So we're not hiring for geniuses, we're hiring for developers, So let's get some in.
That's a great shade on the developers there.
We're hiring thickos. Come on.
But yeah, it's a lovely team. You should absolutely want to join us.
No matter how you put it, it's a little bit insulting to a few crowds.
No geniuses, just developers.
Just developers, please. That's British humor. I'll call it British humor, yeah.
but yes, to that point, as one of the new guys, excuse me, as one of the new guys, I do have to say, working here is great. The team is great. Everyone's been super supportive. Coming in, I had, only, topical XState experience. And so I'm still diving deep and getting, my sea legs ready and things like that. And so it's been a lot of fun. I think it's the big thing. It's been so much fun. It's been a lot to learn. And again, as far as the brain juice thing goes, I saw it was specifically called brain juice, which was interesting for me. Juice is something that you can replace, man. You can go get juice at the store. So that's a fixable problem.
And it's also worth pointing out that this is a team that really values a good work-life balance. So we are not about overworking. We are not about stressing people out and burning people out. This is about healthy, sustainable work.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Just like Gavin mentioned. Oh, sorry.
No, I was just saying, Jenny has yelled at me a couple times about sending IMs too late. So there's an enforced work-life balance.
Which, yeah, we're all distributed. We're all in different time zones, and yeah, like being an expert in XState is definitely not a requirement, because a lot of our future plans are like even just go beyond the scope of just XState. So, yeah, that's important to know too.
Fabulous. Well, if that is all we have to discuss this week, I will wrap us up. So we will not be back next week. Remember, we will see you in 2 weeks' time. So thank you for joining us, and we will see you then. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.